Welcome back to ELA Bootcamp for your fourth video, students. Let's get you into it. We're going to take a look at some of an English teacher's biggest nightmare, fragments and run-ons. Just kidding, they're not that big a deal, and they're pretty easy to fix as we practice. Let's hop to our roadmap, and we're going right into fragments and run-ons. So when you hear teachers talking about this, it's sentences that don't function like sentences should. So for example, fragments, a fragment like a frag grenade that explodes into pieces of shrapnel, fragments are small parts. They're not enough to actually be a sentence. Now, if we wanted to get fancy with grammar, I'd start explaining to you clauses, dependent and independent clauses, but I tend to lose students when that happens, if I'm being honest. Maybe I don't explain it well, maybe it's just too confusing. I'm just going to remind you that a sentence needs to have a subject and a predicate, aka a verb. Remember that video? If not, you could go back and watch that on the website or on our YouTube. So when we have a fragment, it lacks a subject or a predicate. Maybe it lacks both. In an imperative sentence, you might say, wait, that's a command. If somebody says, watch out, isn't that a fragment? In an imperative sentence, because it's a command telling you to do something, the implied subject is always you, the person reading it that's being addressed by the sentence. So when we say watch out, you are the person to whom they're saying, watch, look out, okay? Watch out, as a side note, is a little slang. It's kind of like a verbal expression like shut up or sit down. Watch out kind of goes together, though the two words could exist exclusively, but that's a lesson for another day. Moving on. Here's some examples of sentence fragments. Because he fell. Who's he? Because he fell what? Why did he fall? Next example. After going to the store. After going to the store, he ate a pizza. Who went to the store? What happened before that? What led to? I don't know. Too confusing, right? Due to this. So this last sentence is something I'll see in a TQA paragraph or an essay that a student's writing, and they do it with good intentions, thinking that they're being clear to reinforce a point, but they're not stating enough information. Due to what? This is being used in this case as kind of a demonstrative pronoun to take the place of other information. We need that info. Due to this, the author proved their point, the author established a theme, you tell me. So you must make sure you're getting your ideas across. I'll be honest, most of you high school writers probably don't write a lot of fragments. That's a great thing. What we do write are run-on sentences, and these are a much bigger problem, especially the infamous comma splice, which we'll look at an example of in a moment. So run-ons are much more frequent because you build momentum as a writer and you kind of don't want to slow down. So you just keep writing, and you have to learn to stop yourself or find effective ways to slow down and separate ideas. Why are run-ons bad? When you write an essay or a paragraph stating information, the person reading it needs to understand you from point A to point B. If we don't see clear breaks in the logic, where we can then refresh our mind, process it, and move on to the next idea, and then the next break with the period, etc., it becomes kind of a jarbled mess, and it's confusing, and if the writing's unclear for the reader, you've kind of failed in your job of communicating. So let's look how we fix these things. 3 ways. Dealer's choice. What do you want to do to fix a run-on? Well, you got options. You could stop and add a period and begin a new sentence. It's too many ideas in a run-on, so just make 2 simple sentences. If you don't like that, you want to get fancier, get some sentence variety, make a compound sentence using conjunctions like and, or, but, for, and others. You don't like doing that, you don't feel like putting a comma in, okay. Use a semicolon. Look on your keyboard. See that semicolon next to the L that we don't use a lot? This is where you use it. Use it to bridge 2 closely related ideas together, and you don't even need to capitalize afterwards. Isn't that cool? Let's look at examples in action. So here's a comma splice run-on. Joseph hiked all morning on the mountain. As he left, the weather turned dark and gloomy. Now I'll admit, I kind of sped through that pause with the comma just to emphasize how it's a run-on, but even with the pause, it does not function correctly written as it is. Here's how we would fix it. Choice 1. Joseph hiked all morning on the mountain. Period is a full stop. We break in the flow of our ideas to let the reader process it. Now we resume. As he left, comma for a pause, the weather turned dark and gloomy. 2 ideas, 2 sentences. That works. Don't like that? Does that seem too basic? Check this one out. Joseph hiked all morning on the mountain. That's a typo, I apologize. But as he left, the weather turned dark and gloomy. So this is splicing into a compound sentence with a comma and a but. Now, but is a conjunction that shows change or something that's opposite or different. I couldn't use and here because it doesn't follow logically that if you hike, weather will change. The but changes things. Now that the weather was, we assume, good on the, not he, mountain, sorry, we can assume the weather was nice. The conjunction but adds more to the sentence. So in avoiding run-ons, you actually clarify meaning as a writer, which is really great. Here's a semicolon. Joseph hiked all morning on the mountain. Congratulations to me, I can type. Look at the semicolon. It stops us there with that idea, and then it introduces the related idea. As he left, the weather turned gloomy. So this idea is closely linked. It works as its own sentence, but we want to join it, no problem. We use a semicolon, a space, and we are groovy. Good to go. Okay? That's how easy it is to fix a run-on. You've always got 3 options. So when a teacher says to you, dude, fix your run-ons, you got to watch out for that. You have 3 options for how to fix it, or you could ask your teacher for help, as always. Sorry again for the typo over here. We always need to proofread, don't we? I will see you in the next video.